My first impressions of Como Lake Resort are nothing short of outstanding. As soon as you walk in and you're welcomed by the hosts, Tracy and John, you felt like you're coming home. I'm a big believer that every resort or lodge or outfitter has a heartbeat. Oftentimes you get a feeling when you walk into a place or onto a piece of property, and that initial feeling gives you a sense of what your trip is going to be like or what your vacation is going to be like. And I knew right away, as soon as we saw beaming smiles and outstretched hands welcoming us, that this was going to be a fantastic trip. I was given a map of the lake and shown where the boat hazards were, along with where great fishing spots are. But I was encouraged to explore. And for me, that's where the fun is. When you come to a brand new lake and you get to figure things out for yourself, there's nothing like it, especially when you find success. Como Lake Resort is the only resort on the lake, so the pressure on these fish is literally next to nothing. I bet you some of these fish have never seen flies before. And that's the beauty of coming to Northern Ontario, is you legitimately have the ability to fish in waters where maybe no fly fisher has been. Where else can you find that? Smallmouth bass, we're here 10 days after ice out, and the water was cold. I was super surprised at how aggressive these fish were. We're talking water in the low 50s, 50, 51 degrees. But for fish that may have never seen a fly, they jumped on it like crazy, and they fight. They're not giant fish in the sense of length, but they're thick and they're powerful and they're big.
Yeah, that's a good fish.
That's a great fish all day.
Great fish, yeah.
Oh, God.
Did he give you a splash?
Yeah. The northern pike fishing is just incredible. Yeah, you can catch a lot of fish, but you have a legitimate chance at catching a giant. We had a unique experience where we were able to fish a flat, not unlike fishing saltwater, you know, where you're poling yourself searching for bonefish. And I'm here to tell you, there's nothing like fishing northern pike in 2 feet of water, especially when they're well over 40 inches.
Can you believe this?
That is a big pike.
Holy. Oh, I didn't even catch him and I'm shaking.
It's not every day that we get to fish for multi-species on one body of water. I'm at Como Lake Resorts, just outside of Chapleau, Ontario, in Algoma country. Here we're going to be targeting trophy northern pike, big smallmouth bass, and if time permits, we're going to go inland and search for some wild eastern brook trout. This is going to be an exciting adventure, and I can't wait to get fishing.
Ooh, that's a nice sized fish.
I will catch these all day.
That is what you're in for on this episode.
The New Fly Fisher is brought to you in partnership with Destination Ontario, Algoma Country, Orvis Fly Fishing, Scientific Anglers, Trout Unlimited, WeatherTech Canada.
Ontario Lodges and Outfitters look forward to welcoming international anglers when it's safe to travel once again.
In the heart of Algoma country, we discovered one of Northern Ontario's best-kept secrets. Here, just outside the town of Chapleau, is Como Lake Resort. Como Lake and the surrounding region offer some of the best sport for the outdoor enthusiast that the province has to offer, and we've come here to explore. While hiring a guide for at least a portion of a trip, particularly on new water, is always recommended, there's something to be said about heading out on your own and prospecting for what's available. So what is available at Como Lake? Most of inland Algoma, smallmouth bass, northern pike, and walleye headline the list, but it's certainly not limited to those. For the intrepid anglers willing to work, brook trout can be found in abundance in both lakes and rivers, and many of the lakes, including Como, offer outstanding whitefish angling. When exploring new water, it pays to stick with what you know. More often than not, what works on your home water will prevail on most lakes and streams. But don't be complacent and be prepared to be versatile. Boy, did he clobber that.
Well, like I said, the water's so cold, they're super aggressive right now. That's funny. He just hammered it, huh?
That's not a bad start.
That's not a bad start at all.
Well,
Super
he's beat
aggressive.
up?
Look at that,
Yeah,
beat
yeah.
up, totally.
But it's a heavy fish, like it's chunky.
Yep, yep.
Nice.
Post-spawn scars, go back to do it.
Here, you owe me a buck.
I do owe you a buck. Thanks for reminding me. Here comes the rain. The water's cold back here. We're looking at 50 degrees right now. But we know from local knowledge that this is one of the bays that is the shallowest, and it's one of the bays that's the first to get weeds that come up. Because it's a dark bottom, the sun will have a radiant effect on the water, and if we can get some sun to come out, this is a spot where is going to warm up first, which means the bait fish are going to move in, which means the pike are going to follow the bait fish. So in searching out new areas to locate pike in the spring, look for shallow, dark bottom bays that likely more than not to heat up before any of the main body of the water. Got him that time.
That a boy.
That's fun. So we're in the shallows looking for cruising pike. 55 degrees, bass season is open here. And we saw Rob had this fish chase on his fly. And I grabbed a bass rig and threw in behind, and
That's a good bass.
wouldn't you know, fish on. Awesome stuff. Bring them to you.
Yeah, that's a good fish.
Sight casting for smallies is just 100% for them. This is their total pre-spawn, so they're cruising. Got it?
Yep.
Look how dark green she is. Wow.
There's no indication that she's spawning at all.
No.
None. We worked the extreme end of the lake and managed some success.
Nice one.
But weather, as it often does, didn't cooperate. We decided to call it a night and head towards the lodge under heavy rain. But the fish gods gave us a window of just okay weather, and after reconnoitering with John, we headed to another shoreline that would give us a couple more hours before dark. All right, so we're approaching this creek ahead of us, and we noticed there's a considerable amount of debris in here that forms these dark spots. And we're thinking there's a good opportunity here to find some warmer water and maybe some staging smallmouth. So Mark has killed the engine and he's just working us into it slowly. I'll be up on the foredeck, locked and loaded and ready to go if we spot any fish. We'll give it a go and see what happens. We seldom have perfect periods to fish in, and because of this, it's important to recognize the subtleties of the current conditions. Few things become more important, particularly during transition periods, than understanding fish behavior based on water temperature. Pike typically spawn in water temperature of at least 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Smallmouth bass require a consistent temperature of about 60 degrees or better, with the main lake between 52 and 56 degrees. Our best guess was that we were in a transition period and would have to seek out warmer water if we were to find any concentrations of smallmouth bass. I got him. That's a bass.
He's still on?
No, he's gone.
Do you want this small bass rod?
Oh, he's right there. Oh, there's a whole bunch of them. Yeah. I'm all tangled up. When nothing can turn grown men into complete idiots instantly.
There's fish all through here. This is awesome. Here, this is your rod. Give me that.
Three casts, 3 fish.
Here. Let me get inside there and we can cast it.
Oh, what is it?
I don't know.
We got a hook on it still? I should check that. You just took it apart.
So we came into this, look at this, look at the cut. We were able to get the boat in here in this tiny little bay. And it's full of smallmouth. The water temperature is 63, that's why. This is so much fun. Exploring a new lake is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Man, they fight. Look how dark the water is, Rob.
Well, that's what I was saying. When we came into that cut, the contrast of the color that was coming out into the lake, it looks like root beer.
But it makes total sense why they're in here, right? The darker the water, it heats up faster. This isn't a slouch either. Super fun.
Oh, there's one.
Nice double header.
Oh,
It looks like a good one.
this is outstanding.
All right, here's mine. I'm gonna let it go and help Rob with his. He's looks like a bigger fish.
They're kind of, what we've been seeing, they're kind of cookie cutters, but but nice cookie cutters.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
You'll never hear me complain about 13, 14-inch
Smallies on fly. That one's a little football. Look how fat he is.
Beautiful.
Look how fat. All right.
Pretty fish, too.
What's that fly, Rob?
That's a pattern that Nick Groves ties, a friend of mine from Fergus. And he was kind enough to give me a bunch of flies. Actually, no, this is a Jason King pattern, another friend of mine from that area. But these guys are the two of them are the mad scientists of streamer fishing in this province, and they're just brilliant fly tiers. Brilliant.
All right, I'm gonna let this guy go.
Oh my gosh! Look at them down there.
Hold on, I'm having technical difficulties here.
Put it in neutral. Are you in neutral?
Yeah.
What's going on back there, Jake?
I was wrapped around the prop. Now I'm hooked up on the transponder.
Oh, I see your line.
What's going on over there?
Well, the line is.
Oh, here we go. Get off me, hunk of junk. Blooper. Or line wrapped around my butt.
Here, give me your rod because I'm hung up too. What a gong show. Professionals, eh? We're the pros. Here, I gotta give that to you. I'm just gonna break this off if I can. Oh, I got it. I ended up getting it though. Yeah, do you want to do that, Mark?
Before we get these things too jazzed up,
All right, so we found this little back bay, as you can see behind me here. And we didn't even get into the mouth and I hit a bass. And behind it was a half a dozen or 8 bass following it. So we proceeded to make 8 or 10 more casts. Mark and I just had both our streamers got hung up on the bottom, but we came back out and now we're regrouping and we're going in with poppers because there's nothing more fun than taking aggressive bass, and these bass seem to be really aggressive. So we're going to go in with some surface stuff. I just gave Mark just a little balsa wood popper, and I'm going to put on this Delbert diver because it's one of my all-time favorite bass patterns, and it'll create a commotion on the surface, and I'll be able to see it, but it'll also get down a little bit as I pull it under, sort of like a Rapala. So we're going to get these tied on and then just ease ourselves back in there. I think that this whole pond back here is full of bass. Also, the water temperature in here is 65 degrees, which is almost 10 degrees warmer than the lake. So that's why these fish are in here, and they are aggressive.
After finding a dense concentration of fish, we thought it might be fun to go after them with surface patterns. It's interesting, though, that despite the obvious number of smallies, they were not interested in this presentation. In cases like this, it pays to stick with what works.
There's a fish, there's a fish. Oh, I got it. Ah. There we go. Oh, that's a good fish. Oh, geez, look at him go. Holy jumpers.
they're strong, huh?
Holy cow! Oh my gosh!
What'd you tie on?
Just that little green thing. I think an olive woolly bugger or black woolly bugger would do the trick. Holy cow!
It's pulling the boat.
Oh my goodness!
I'll land them for you. That's not a giant, but they fight.
No, I
huh?
know. It really is. It's just, if I'd have had that line on my reel, burn my finger a couple of times.
Ooh, good fish, man. What tippet do you have on here?
That's 12 pound. You're good.
Oh, Rob, good man.
Yeah, that's a good fish.
That's a great fish
That's
all
a
day.
great fish, yeah.
All right, let me back us up in there and we'll keep going.
Yeah, we have not even got out of the mouth of this little pond.
Oh! God.
To give you a splash?
Yeah, I
Little
deserve
shower.
that.
Whoa.
Fish.
Jeez.
So what's interesting is that there's a channel that runs right down the center of this. On either side of it, it's 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet, but it's 6 to 8 feet right down the middle. And that's where these fish are hanging out, in this deeper, deeper water. Rob just missed one. And I mean, this is the kind of thing where, you know what, if you find active fish like this, it's a great opportunity for you to take and experiment. And if there's things that you want to try for bass, or any fish for that matter, now's the time to do it. I mean, I could throw a pop can out here and see what happens. That's the beauty of it, is you know they're here, you know they're feeding. I mean, what, 15 fish already? Like, it's crazy, amazing. So you can educate yourself when you have fish around to see what might or may not work. Case in point, we just threw on some poppers, couldn't move a fish. Put on a Clouser minnow, can't keep them off. And it doesn't matter the size. Como Lake bass. 100% fun.
It's almost like they're onto this fly now.
You think?
Water temperature played a paramount role in our success this evening. Two things that we can't overstress. Understand your quarry's behavior where it relates to movement and migration patterns, and stay on top of the water temperature on those areas that you're planning to work. If you don't have electronics on board, carry a thermometer. Any angler worth his weight monitors water temperature and reacts to it.
That's a bigger fish.
Aren't these adventures fun though? I mean, we've never been here before. We weren't even told about this. We found a little cut,
Well,
go for a play.
We almost went in during that storm, and aren't you happy we didn't?
Yeah. Even bigger.
We found the creek mouth, and Rob launched a fly into the creek mouth, and about 12 smallmouth bass followed him out. We found the money. We found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So we inched our way in, and it was mayhem. We felt like school kids during a piñata fest. When the piñata breaks, candy goes everywhere, and kids are scrambling. That's what it was like in the boat. It was cast fish, double headers. We must have had 8 double headers in this creek. We fished them for an hour, just laughing and giggling and carrying on, driving our camera guy, Ryan, absolutely crazy because he couldn't hold a shot. Because as soon as I'd let a fish go, Rob would have one on. As soon as Rob let a fish go, I would have one on. Then we'd have a double header. It was smallmouth bass heaven.
Another feature of fishing during tough conditions or transition periods is determining what kind of retrieve the fish are into. This holds true for all species when fishing with streamers. All fish have their own comfort zones in terms of water temperature and will be more or less aggressive depending on these. What worked last week may not work this week, so once again, experiment with your retrieve. As a rule of thumb, the more aggressive the fish are, the more aggressive your retrieve can be, and vice versa.
Some of the things to consider when you're fishing, especially smallmouth bass in cold temperatures. At 51 degrees, these fish are going to be pretty lethargic. So you want to slow your presentation down. I'm just retrieving with a little finger crawl, keeping the fly moving almost perpetually, and then I'll vary it with just a couple of short little strips or twitches of my rod tip. I'm fishing a fairly long leader and a heavily weighted fly on a floating line, and I'm also using fluorocarbon. This lake is extraordinarily clear, and we want to take advantage of all the technology we have. Fluorocarbon is more invisible in water than monofilament. So this is just a green olive, almost a pseudo woolly bugger, but it is heavily weighted, so I'm going to allow it to sink and fish it as slow as the bottom will allow me. And what I mean by that is, you don't want to be getting hung up in the rocks in every cast, but keep it moving and fish it as slow as you can.
After the action slowed down on the inlet, we moved back out onto the main lake. It was near dusk, but the light remained good enough on the calm lake that we decided to spend the remaining evening cruising the shoreline in hopes of locating cruising pike. And that paid off in spades.
Dummy.
Oh, he turned.
I know.
He's got it. I got him. Sweet. Got to see the eat and everything, man. That was awesome. Let me turn the boat. You all right?
Yeah. It's a big fish.
How's that?
That's a big pike.
So what happened there, bud?
We just came out of that little bay, and he was sitting in the middle of nowhere. And we've been seeing so many logs that look like fish, and I said, big pike, big pike. I put that little red and white guy on it, and
Twitched it right by his head, came over, I saw him eat it.
yeah,
How cool was that?
it's a good pike.
In 2 feet of water.
And we were just saying, well, we were saying a couple hours ago, how wouldn't it be nice to find a cruising fish? He wasn't cruising, he was just sitting there, but
Look, he's pulling the boat. The big fish, man.
I can't slow him down.
We got lots of time. I'm gonna come up behind you.
We'll just watch that rod.
You got it.
I just try and keep him off balance.
What was cool was that you put it beside him, right, at his tail, and brought it up towards him.
Yeah.
He looked at it, 2 strips, and he came, big mouth, took it all. Let's get this guy out of here. Oh my gosh, Como Lake. For the first time being here, I'm pretty impressed.
That's a big pike. That is a big pike.
Welcome to Algoma. Oh my gosh, it's huge! Oh my, it's a giant!
You didn't like that.
Nope. That is a stud northern. I was hoping he was going to swim right into the net there.
I think he's getting ready here. 15-pound fish on.
It's amazing you don't get to see the size. You really get to see the size when they come out of the water, right?
Yeah.
That refraction was really deceiving. Don't let them go to those cedars. Oh, look how wide it is across the back, Rob.
That's a big. I think that's the biggest pike I've ever caught.
Really?
I think so. I'll bring him to you.
Oh my goodness. Yes! Can you believe this?
That is a big pike.
Holy. I didn't even catch him and I'm shaking. All right, guys, this is a 43-inch northern. We are going to be very careful with her. Okay, you can clear the net. Good job, Rob.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.
It was a good fight. What we're going to do is just make sure that she's okay, and she'll let me know when she's ready to go. I think she's ready. Thanks, sweetheart. What an unbelievable animal. Rob, is that your biggest northern?
That is my biggest northern.
Congratulations,
Thanks,
buddy.
man. And to get it the way we did, just spotting it out in the
See,
flats.
soul stirring absolutely takes your breath away,
it does.
doesn't
No,
it?
I know. And you know what? I'm a believer now. I get it. I've caught my share of pike, but mostly on conventional gear, and that was a riot.
Absolute thrill.
That was a riot.
It was a thrill to net it for you, my friend.
Thanks.
All right. Well, as soon as we got out of the creek, Rob looked out of the corner of his eye and he saw a pike. That first fly that he cast, he got it beside the pike, stripped it a couple of times, and lifted to recast to the fish. And as he lifted, that fly caught the pike's eye, and she turned just a little bit. And I called Rob, she saw it, go back. And he threw it out there again and stripped it to her, and she just slowly swam over, opened her mouth, and I'm talking opened her mouth, and that fly disappeared. She turned, he strip set, and it was game on. I was able to put her in the net and look at what was one of the largest northern pike I've ever seen. She taped out at 43 inches. She probably weighed between 22 and 26 pounds, and she was clean, super clean, just post-spawn. You'd think that they would be beat up, tattered fins, but she was immaculate. And it was an absolute thrill of my lifetime to be able to net and release Rob's fish for him. It was just, it's the kind of stuff that northern pike dreams are made of, really, especially catching a fish of a lifetime in 2 feet of water and being able to watch everything from A to Z, from hookup, from cast, from sight to release. It was perfect. One of the things that I love about Como Lake Resort is the diversity of the fish in Como Lake. And when you come here on your fly fishing vacation, do a little bit of research as to what's in the lake, what's swimming, and what these big northern pike and large smallmouth bass might be feeding on. Well, first of all, there are a ton of whitefish in this lake. This is a pattern tied by Nick. All of these basically are tied by Nick Groves from Ontario, Canada, mimicking something that could be considered a whitefish. It's got a rattle in it. There are a ton of perch, yellow perch, jumbo perch, so bring along some perch patterns. There are smallmouth bass that pike will feed on, a great bass pattern as such. And right now, you know, being early June, there are suckers spawning in the creeks and in the rivers. And if you know what suckers look like, they often are black and they have an orange tinge to them, an orange stripe. So a sucker pattern is also something to consider. Another fish that is prevalent in most northern lakes here in Ontario is, of course, walleye. Northern pike love to eat walleye, so make sure you bring walleye pattern. And one of my favorite flies to bring on any fishing vacation, being saltwater or freshwater, is Blaine Chocolate's Game Changer. This thing truly does change the game. Whenever you go on a fly fishing vacation, do some research to the lake that you're going to. If it's new to you, match the hatch, bring the flies that these northern pike will key in on to up your chances at landing an absolute Como Lake giant.
For this week's episode, we used an array of rods from 6 weights through to 10 weights. The reason for the variant there is when we were fishing smaller flies for bass, the 6 weight is all we really needed. A 6 weight rod will handle just about any smallmouth bass on the planet, and it'll also handle these reasonably sized flies. However, when we switched to pike, we didn't necessarily switch to a 9 weight to accommodate the fish. The majority of the fish we were catching were between 3 and 5 pounds, but the flies that we're throwing require the heavier rod. So we went with 9s and 10 weights for throwing heavily weighted flies such as this. So each rod was paired up with a large arbor reel. It's important to have a large arbor reel, especially when you're in a boat or stationary where you can't run back, say, from a bank. If a fish does decide to turn and come back at you quickly, the large arbor reels pick up line far faster. For the most part this week, we caught all of our fish on floating lines, which is nice because they're far easier to cast. And our leader setup was fairly simple. Being in the lake with not a lot of structure to deal with, we simply went from 60-pound to 40-pound fluorocarbon, and then about an 18 to 20-inch section of wire knottable bite leader. We kept these fairly short, under 7 feet, because these fish typically are not leader shy. The shorter leaders are far easier to turn over, and of course the heavier the leader, the easier it is for that to turn over as well.
The next morning, Jean took us on a drive along some of the remote roads around Chapleau. He didn't let us down as we encountered much of what the North has to offer in terms of wildlife. And it was a nice break, but we also had a plan in mind. It's hard to imagine this region without brook trout, and we wanted to find some. This region is wildly rugged, reminding me of the waters that I grew up on the East Coast. But where brook trout are concerned, timing is critical, and the region had suffered from a lack of rain for several weeks, leaving the streams low, warm, and clear. We gave it our due diligence and covered a good deal of water, and for our efforts, we did manage a few small brookies. But our takeaway from this was that this area needs to be explored in greater detail. It screams brook trout live here.
fish. All right, it is a brook trout. We came into this little waterfall region in search of wild eastern brookies. Put on a red-headed woolly bugger, brown. Oh, look at the colors of this little guy. Oh, so fun. You know, no matter how big brook trout get, and no matter how big they actually are, they are still a wonderful, wonderful adversary on fly. They are super fun to catch. They're absolutely gorgeous. And in many systems, they're the apex predator, which means if you can catch them right away, I mean, they're gonna be on it just like crazy. Look at this guy. He's absolutely gorgeous. Looks like he's almost in his spawning colors. And with the white leading edges on those fins and the blue rings around the red halos, they really are one of nature's greatest creations. They live in cold water and they'll eat basically anything that they can put in their mouths. Look at the size of that fish versus the size of the fly. Case in point, right there. Thanks, pal.
This area is, it's just, there's so much to offer. As in rivers and streams and lakes, we've got it all. Like the area of Chapleau, which is still within the Algoma district, has so much to offer for the angler, the hunter, anything you really want. It's here. It's all here. We have fully equipped cabins with hot and cold water, full kitchen amenities, propane stove, electric refrigerators. We are totally off the grid, where we have a diesel generator that powers the whole camp, and it works out perfect. We're true believers, Tracy and I, that to come out to a place like Como Lake Resort is to get away from that hustle and bustle of everyday life and to take time to enjoy life and admire the surroundings and relax. People need to relax. To travel here or to travel back home, you'll experience nature at its best. You'll never know when you encounter a moose, a bear, bald eagle perched on a tree, beaver by a neighboring pond. The sky's the limit of what you can actually see here. And that's what we love about it. That's why we've never moved from Chapleau. We love the area, and we were fortunate enough to become owners of Como Lake Resort. We offer great fishing on Como Lake, fishing for walleye, bass, lake trout, whitefish, and pike. It's a great sports fishing. I never really knew anything about it. And now that I've seen what it's all about, and yeah, it's a great sports fishing. And we highly encourage sports fishing. And I think we got what Como Lake has to offer for a great fly fishing. We have everything to offer to you. The wildlife, the fishing, the fishing's at its best. I mean, we're not shy to compare our fishing here than any other lodge, and very affordable. And we think that's key for the average people out there, such as ourselves, to take advantage of what we have here.
Back on Como Lake, the weather continued to be unstable, and for the most part, the fishing was challenging. But we persisted and found among Como's many islands and inlets enough shelter from the wind to be productive. And once again, Como did not disappoint. We continued to probe the small islands and humps that we had not previously fished and had reasonable success despite the changing weather. The key to this trip was versatility and not being afraid to fall on our heads. We covered a lot of water, but more importantly, we learned so much about Como Lake. I can't wait to return here for summer bass fishing.
Well, isn't that fun? We just talked about locating fish in structure, and this little pike was sitting on that log that's behind us right here and came out and just engulfed this fly. Now, the water's cold, but for what we've seen already, these fish are pretty aggressive. So we'll see if we can find this guy's grandma in a minute. But that's a good piece of the puzzle to know that they're relating to wooden structure here in this back little bay. There we go. All right, this barbless fly just pops out. Violent little fish, totally hungry. Post-spawn, looking to fatten up for the summertime. Good fun.
Fish! Where are you going?
He's going to the deep water. Is that a big fish? It's a big
I think
bass.
it's a big bass. It's a big old bass.
Here, let me grab the net on him, Rob.
Yeah, it's a big bass.
That's a giant. Nice fish.
That's a big bass. Who dat? Who dat? This is a 9-weight rod, and I'm pushing this fish. I'm leaning on it. Oh. Come back. Ah, well done, Mark. Nice.
As we
nice.
came around that island,
Yeah.
we saw a fish move, and it was a significant move. There was a big splash, and I think you just found out what caused that big splash. Let's take a look at this.
That's a 3.5 pounder. Nice.
How fat that fish is.
Yeah,
Here.
3 pounds, maybe.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, nice.
All right, we'll take that barbless pike fly out.
Yeah, not as big as I thought, but it's a good fish.
Yeah. Aggressive. Pre-spawn female. Look how big her belly is, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's get this girl back. See you, sweetheart.
Nothing to it. Well, that's it for this week. We had a great time at Como Lake Resort. Fishing was outstanding, the hospitality was second to none, and we'd like to thank John and Tracy for having us. If you'd like to learn more about this destination or others, join us at thenewflyfisher.com. And until next time, have fun and we'll see you on the water.
The New Fly Fisher is brought to you in partnership with Destination Ontario, Algoma Country, Orvis Fly Fishing, Scientific Anglers, Trout Unlimited, WeatherTech Canada.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Ontario will be here waiting for you when it's safe to travel.